Have you ever looked directly at something, and still failed to see it? Not because you were distracted, not because the light was poor, but because your brain simply refused to acknowledge what was right in front of your eyes. You scanned a patch of forest floor, saw nothing but dead leaves and dappled shadow, and moved on. Yet in that exact spot, a creature the size of your thumbnail had been watching you with a stillness so profound that it had become part of the background noise of the world. This is not a failure of your vision. It is a triumph of evolution. The wild is not a place of constant chases and roaring victories. For most inhabitants, survival means never being seen at all. And for a select few, invisibility is a weapon sharper than any claw. What if danger was already watching you before you even realized it existed? You might imagine a tiger's amber eyes glowing from deep grass, or a leopard's spotted form draped over a tree limb. But true masters of deception do not need to be large. They do not need to be fast. They need only to be mistaken for something else. A thorn on a rose stem that suddenly moves. A patch of lichen on a boulder that possesses a heartbeat. A scattering of bird droppings on a leaf that is, in fact, a spider waiting to launch its silken net. The world around you is full of such performers, and they have refined their craft over millions of years, long before the first human ever wondered what was watching from the darkness. And how many creatures in the wild survive not because they are stronger, but because they become invisible? The answer is almost too many to count. In every ecosystem on Earth, from the abyssal plains of the ocean floor to the high canopy of Amazonian rainforests, the most successful strategy is often the one that says nothing, moves nothing, and reveals nothing. Strength requires energy. Speed requires space. But invisibility requires only patience and the perfect costume. This is the story of those cost. And the extraordinary lives that wear them. Welcome to a journey into the hidden world where survival depends on deception, silence, and patience. A world where predators do not chase, they wait. Where a single leaf may actually be alive, and an ordinary stone could become one of the deadliest creatures on Earth. From deserts that hide venom beneath the sand to forests filled with animals that vanish into bark, shadow, and moss, these are the true masters of camouflage. Some hide to escape death. Others hide to become death itself. And by the end of this journey, you may start questioning how much of the wild has been watching you all along. Before we go any further, take a moment to consider your own surroundings. Look at the nearest plant pot. The corner of the room where the light fades. The pattern on the upholstery beside you. Is anything there that should not be? Probably not. But the fact that you are now looking twice is proof of how deeply this fear. This ancient, primal awareness that something might be hiding in plain sight, is wired into your brain. Our ancestors who failed to notice the leopard in the tall grass did not become our ancestors. We are the descendants of those who looked twice. And yet, even with that inherited vigilance, we are still fooled every single day. Let us begin in the rainforests of South America, where a creature exists that has taken camouflage to a place beyond sight. It is called the deadleaf butterfly, but that name is a criminal understatement. When this insect closes its wings, it does not merely resemble a dead leaf. It becomes a dead leaf with such fidelity that even other insects are deceived. The undersides of its wings are etched with patterns that mimic leaf veins, midribs, and even the tiny fungal spots that appear on decaying foliage. The butterfly can choose to rest at an angle that mimics a leaf still partially attached to its stem. Or it can lie flat to look like a fallen fragment already colonized by mold. Some species have evolved wing edges that look torn and ragged, as if nibbled by caterpillars. Others have tiny translucent patches that simulate holes caused by leaf-eating beetles. This is not simple coloration. This is high-resolution mimicry, down to the level of light and shadow. When a bird flies past, its brain scans the foliage for edible insects. It sees what appears to be 100,000 dead leaves. And it ignores every single one. The butterfly could be resting 6 inches from the bird's beak, and the bird would never know. But the dead leaf butterfly is only the beginning. Take a step deeper into the forest, and you may brush against what you think is a twig. Only later will you notice that the twig has 6 legs and a pair of antennae. Stick insects are the undisputed architects of linear concealment. Some species grow longer than a human arm, yet they vanish against branches because their bodies are not just brown but textured with ridges, nodes, and fake scars that match the bark of their host tree. They sway gently when the wind blows, synchronizing their movement with the surrounding foliage. If a predator gets too close, many stick insects perform a behavior called thanatosis. They go completely limp and drop to the leaf litter below, becoming indistinguishable from the twigs and debris. Others have eggs that look exactly like seeds, complete with a fatty knob called a capitulum that ants mistake for food. The ants carry the eggs back to their nests, feed the capitulum to their larvae, and deposit the intact egg in their nutrient-rich waste piles, where it hatches in perfect safety. The stick insect has not only hidden itself, it has outsourced the protection of its offspring to another species entirely. Now shift your attention to the forest floor, where the leaf litter is not as lifeless as it seems. In the forests of Southeast Asia lives a reptile so extraordinary that when Western scientists first received specimens, they assumed the animals had been decorated with paint or preserved in a deformed state. This is the satanic leaf-tailed gecko, and its name is deserved. Its body is flattened, fringed with flaps of skin that break up its outline, and colored in mottled grays, browns, and mossy greens. But its most remarkable feature is its tail, which is wide, flat, and deeply notched to look exactly like a decaying leaf, complete with a central vein and ragged edges. When the gecko presses itself against a tree trunk and flattens its body, the shadow beneath it disappears. Its head, which normally has a pair of large, expressive eyes with vertical pupils, becomes nearly invisible because the gecko has also evolved skin flaps that hide the outline of its jaw. It can remain motionless for hours, even days. If a bird or snake approaches, the gecko does not flee. It opens its mouth wide, revealing a startling crimson interior, and screams. The sudden flash of color and noise is often enough to startle the predator for a split second, giving the gecko time to drop from the tree and vanish into the undergrowth. But it is the waiting that is most astonishing. You could walk within a hand's breadth of this animal, shine a flashlight directly on it, and still not see it. Your brain would interpret the gecko as a knot in the bark, a patch of lichen, or a damaged leaf. It would not register a lizard at all. Invisibility is not always about matching the background. Sometimes it is about breaking up the outline so thoroughly that the eye cannot assemble the pieces into a recognizable shape. This is the principle of disruptive coloration, and no animal employs it more effectively than the zebra. For centuries, naturalists debated why zebras evolved stripes. Some thought it was for temperature regulation, others for social recognition. But the most compelling evidence now points to protection against biting flies. And, more relevant to our journey, camouflage. In the dappled light of the African savanna at dawn or dusk, the zebra's stripes blend with the vertical lines of grass stems and the shifting patterns of shadow. To a lion, which has relatively poor color vision, a herd of zebras dissolves into a confusing, flickering mass of light and dark. The lion cannot isolate a single animal's outline, cannot identify the vulnerable rump or the throat. The zebra's stripes also create an optical illusion called motion dazzle, which makes it difficult for a predator to judge the animal's speed and direction. A charging zebra appears to be moving sideways or backwards, confounding the lion's attack. The stripes do not hide the zebra in plain sight, but they hide the zebra's intentions. And in a world of ambush predators, that is often enough. But the most chilling form of invisibility is not the kind that hides a creature from its enemies. It is the kind that hides a creature from its prey. Predators that use camouflage are not waiting for danger to pass, they are waiting for dinner to wander within striking range. And some of these hunters have perfected the art of becoming nothing so that they may suddenly become everything. Consider the stonefish, which holds the title of the most venomous fish in the world. It lives in the shallow waters of the Indo-Pacific, often in tide pools and among coral reefs. Its body is lumpy, warty, and covered in algae and sediment, making it look exactly like an encrusted rock or a piece of dead coral. It does not move. It does not chase. It simply lies on the ocean floor, its dorsal fin spines erect and loaded with a neurotoxin that can kill a human within hours. An unsuspecting wader or a curious fish steps on the stonefish, believing they have placed their foot on a harmless rock. The spines inject venom instantly, causing pain so intense that victims have been known to beg for amputation. The stonefish does not need to be fast or strong. It only needs to be mistaken for the ground beneath your feet. That is camouflage as ambush, and it is terrifyingly effective. On land, the master of the predatory ambush is the Gaboon viper, a snake that lives in the rainforests of Central and West Africa. It has the longest fangs of any venomous snake, reaching up to 2 inches in length, and it delivers the largest yield of venom of any snake in the world. Yet you could step directly over a Gaboon viper and never know it was there. Its body is patterned with a complex geometry of purples, browns, and creams that exactly matches the color and texture of fallen leaves and root litter. The viper does not flee from approaching footsteps. It does not hiss or rattle. It lies perfectly still, its head which is shaped like a broad, flat arrowhead almost indistinguishable from the surrounding debris. When prey, a rodent, a bird, a frog, passes within range, the viper strikes with the speed of a released spring, sinks its fangs in, and immediately releases. The prey runs a few feet, dies, and the viper follows the scent trail to its meal. There is no struggle, no chase, no wasted energy. The Gaboon viper has turned patience and pattern into the deadliest hunting strategy on the forest floor. Herpetologists who work with these snakes describe a phenomenon that feels almost supernatural. You can be looking directly at a Gaboon viper, your face inches from its body, and still lose it against the background. The pattern seems to shimmer and dissolve, as if the snake is actively pulling itself into the soil. How is this possible? To understand, we have to look not at the animals themselves but at the brains that are trying to see them. Human vision is built for detecting edges, movement, and faces. We are exceptionally good at spotting a straight line against a curved background, a flicker of motion in still air, the bilateral symmetry of another primate. But the wild has evolved to exploit every single one of these biases. Camouflage works by breaking up edges, by matching the texture and color of the environment so closely that there is no boundary for the eye to lock onto. When you look at a perfectly camouflaged animal, your visual cortex does not see an animal. It sees a continuation of the background. The information from your retina reaches your brain, but it is never assembled into the category of creature. You have looked directly at something and failed to see it because your brain decided it was not worth seeing. This is not a metaphor. This is a measurable neurological event. Consider the common patou, a bird found in Central and South America that has taken crypsis to an almost absurd level. During the day, the patou perches on a broken branch or a fence post, closes its eyes, and stretches its body upward. Its plumage is mottled gray and brown, exactly matching lichen-covered bark. But its most remarkable feature is its posture. The patou aligns its body with the branch so perfectly that it becomes an extension of the wood. Its eyes, which are huge and yellow for night hunting, have a series of notches in the eyelids that allow the bird to see even when its eyes are closed, a rare adaptation that lets it monitor its surroundings without breaking the illusion. If a predator approaches, the patou does not fly. It does not vocalize. It simply holds still, trusting in its disguise. There are documented cases of researchers spending hours searching for a tagged patou only to realize it had been sitting in plain sight, less than 10 feet from where they were standing, the entire time. The bird was not hidden in the sense of being behind something. It was hidden in the sense of being mistaken for something else. That is the difference between concealment and camouflage, and the patou is a master of the latter. But the most astonishing examples of camouflage come not from vertebrates but from invertebrates, whose shorter lifespans and massive reproductive numbers allow evolution to experiment with forms that seem impossible. The orchid mantis of Southeast Asia does not merely hide among flowers. It becomes a flower. Its body is white and pink, with leg flaps that resemble petals. It sits on a stem and waits. But here is the detail that will haunt you: the orchid mantis does not just attract prey that come to pollinate real orchids. It attracts prey that come to pollinate the mantis itself. Insects that normally feed on nectar see the mantis and approach expecting a meal. Instead, they become a meal. The mantis has turned a predator-prey relationship inside out. It has become the thing that its prey desires most. This is aggressive mimicry combined with camouflage, a double deception that is almost impossible to detect. Female orchid mantises can grow to 3 inches in length, yet they are virtually invisible against a cluster of pink flowers. They have even evolved to reflect ultraviolet light in the same pattern as a real orchid, because many pollinating insects see in UV. The mantis is not pretending to be a flower. In the visual world of its prey, it is a flower. Similarly, the tropical crab spider does not build a web. It sits on a flower, often a daisy or a goldenrod, and its body color changes over the course of a few days to match the petals. A white spider on a white flower is hard enough to see, but the crab spider also flattens its body and holds its legs close to its sides, eliminating any shape that would suggest an arachnid. It waits with its front legs spread, ready to grab any bee or butterfly that lands too close. The bee, which has excellent color vision and can detect patterns at a distance, sees only a flower. It lands, begins to feed, and is seized before it can take off again. The spider's venom liquefies the bee's internal organs, and the spider drinks the resulting soup. The entire process takes place on a surface that is itself colorful and patterned. Adding another layer of visual noise. You could photograph a crab spider on a flower and later review the image, zooming in pixel by pixel, and still not notice the spider until it moved. That is how complete the deception is. Now let us travel to the frozen north, where camouflage takes on a different meaning. The Arctic fox, the snowshoe hare, the ptarmigan, these animals change their coats with the seasons. In summer, they are brown or gray, blending with tundra soil and rocks. In winter, they turn pure white, becoming one with the snow. This is not a simple color shift. The entire texture and density of the fur or feathers changes. The snowshoe hare's winter coat is thicker and longer, with hairs that are hollow and translucent, scattering light to create an even more perfect white. But the most remarkable part is the timing. The change is triggered not by temperature but by photoperiod, the length of daylight. As autumn progresses and days shorten, the animal's pineal gland detects the change and signals the body to begin growing winter fur. This works perfectly in a stable climate. But climate change is disrupting this ancient rhythm. In some Arctic regions, the snow is melting earlier in spring, leaving white hares and foxes standing out against brown earth, easy prey for wolves and eagles. The camouflage that evolved over millennia is failing because the environment has changed faster than natural selection can keep up. This is a sobering reminder that invisibility is always relative. There is no absolute camouflage, only a temporary match between an animal's appearance and its surroundings. When the surroundings shift, the invisible become visible. And visible prey does not remain prey for long. In the oceans, camouflage faces an even greater challenge because water absorbs and scatters light differently than air. Many fish have evolved silvery sides that reflect the surrounding water, making them nearly invisible from the side. From above, they're dark. Backs blend with the deep blue of the ocean floor. From below, their light bellies blend with the sunlit surface. This is called countershading, and it is so effective that it has been independently evolved by thousands of species, from sharks to penguins to dolphins. But the true masters of marine camouflage are the cephalopods, octopuses, squids, and cuttlefish. These animals have skin that is essentially a living display screen, packed with pigment sacs called chromatophores, light-reflecting cells called iridophores, and even cells that can change the texture of the skin from smooth to spiky or wavy. An octopus can change its color, pattern, and texture in a fraction of a second, matching not just the background but the three-dimensional structure of rocks, coral, or sand. It can become a patch of algae, a chunk of coral, or a smooth pebble. It can create moving bands of color that mimic the play of light through water. Some octopuses have been observed mimicking the shape and movement of venomous sea creatures, such as lionfish or sea snakes, even though the octopus itself is not venomous. This is not just camouflage, it is a form of performance, a real-time editing of the animal's appearance based on what it sees. The mimic octopus of Indonesia takes this to its logical extreme. It does not just hide. It actively impersonates other animals. When threatened by a damselfish, the mimic octopus arranges its arms to look like the banded sea snake, a predator that damselfish fear. When threatened by a territorial crab, it flattens its body and waves two arms to mimic the lionfish, whose venomous spines deter crabs. When threatened by a bird, it spreads its arms and trails them to look like a venomous sole. The octopus has a repertoire of more than a dozen impersonations, and it chooses which one to use based on the specific threat it faces. This requires not just physical flexibility but cognition. The octopus must identify the predator, recall which animal that predator fears, and then reshape its body accordingly. All of this happens in seconds. And when no threat is present, the mimic octopus simply becomes a patch of sand or a tuft of seaweed, invisible and waiting. But not all camouflage is visual. Some of the most effective forms of invisibility operate on other senses. The tiger moth, for example, is a tasty meal for bats, which hunt using echolocation. The moth has evolved to produce ultrasonic clicks that jam the bat's sonar, making the moth appear invisible to the bat's ears. Other moths have fluffy, scale-covered bodies that absorb sound rather than reflecting it, creating a stealth surface akin to the radar-absorbing paint on a stealth bomber. The bat emits its call and hears nothing returning from the moth's location. To the bat, that patch of air is empty. The moth is not hidden in darkness, it is hidden in silence. Similarly, the sandfish lizard of the Sahara Desert does not blend in visually with the sand, it dives into the sand and swims beneath the surface, leaving no ripple or trace. From above, there is nothing to see but endless dunes. The lizard has become invisible by leaving the visual field entirely, moving through a medium that conceals it from every angle. There is a strange and humbling truth at the heart of all this. The wild is not a museum display where everything is neatly labeled and illuminated. It is a world of constant deception, where nearly every animal is either trying not to be seen or trying to see through the deceptions of others. The predator that fails to spot the camouflaged prey goes hungry. The prey that fails to spot the camouflaged predator dies. Over millions of years, this arms race has produced animals that are almost impossibly good at hiding. And yet, we humans walk through this world with our eyes open, confident that we see what is there. We do not. We see what our brains have been trained to see by a lifetime of looking at clean, well-lit, stationary objects in a world of straight lines and solid colors. The wild is none of those things. The wild is messy, dappled, fractured, and full of things that are deliberately trying to fool you. Consider the last time you walked in a forest. Did you notice the moth that looked exactly like a piece of bark? Did you see the spider that had built its web across the trail, its body positioned to look like a twisted leaf? Did you register the frog that was the same color and texture as the moss on the rock you just stepped over? Almost certainly not. And that is fine. You were not trying to catch your dinner. You were not trying to avoid becoming someone else's dinner. But the fact remains, the wild was watching you. The gecko on the tree trunk had its eye on you. The viper in the leaf litter felt your footsteps through the ground. The mantis on the flower tracked your movement, waiting for you to pass so it could resume hunting. You were surrounded by invisible watchers, and you never knew it. Now take that feeling and multiply it by every square meter of forest, ocean, desert, and grassland on Earth. The invisible world is not a small world. It is the majority of the world. What we see is merely the fraction of life that has either abandoned camouflage or been temporarily caught out of disguise. The rest is hidden, watching, waiting. This is not a cause for fear. It is a cause for wonder. The evolution of camouflage is one of the most beautiful and ingenious processes in all of nature. It has produced colors, patterns, and behaviors that artists and engineers can only dream of replicating. The military has spent billions trying to mimic the adaptive camouflage of the octopus. Fabric designers have studied the disruptive patterns of zebras and leopards. Optical physicists have analyzed the light-scattering properties of butterfly wings to develop better anti-reflective coatings. Nature has been solving the problem of invisibility for 500 million years, and the solutions are breathtaking in their diversity and precision. But there is a final layer to this story, and it is the one that lingers longest after the journey ends. The same cognitive biases that make us fail to see a leaf-tailed gecko also make us fail to see patterns in our own lives. We overlook the quiet danger that has been building for months because it does not look like a danger. We miss the opportunity that is right in front of us because it is disguised as hard work or boredom. We fail to notice that someone is struggling because their camouflage is a smile, a busy schedule, a casual wave that says, "I'm fine." The wild teaches us that invisibility is not magic. It is engineering. It is the product of relentless pressure to become what the environment expects to see. And in our human world, we are all, to some extent, camouflaging ourselves. We dress for the occasion, modulate our voices, hide our true feelings behind appropriate expressions. We have become our own masters of deception, not to hunt or to hide from predators, but to navigate the social jungle. The difference is that in the wild, the camouflage eventually fails. The moth's wing scales wear off. The gecko's skin flaps fray. The hare's winter coat melts into summer brown. And in that moment of exposure, the invisible becomes visible, and the cycle begins again. So the next time you walk through a forest or a field, take a moment to really look. Not to see what you expect to see, but to see what might be hiding. Look at the undersides of leaves. Examine the cracks in the bark. Stare at a patch of moss for a full minute. You will still miss most of it. The masters are too good. But you might catch a flicker of something, a leg readjusting, an antenna twitching, an eye opening just a crack. And in that flicker, you will have glimpsed the invisible world. You will have looked directly at something that was trying not to be seen, and for one instant, you saw it anyway. That is the gift of this journey. Not fear, not paranoia, but a deeper appreciation for the hidden lives that surround us. They were there all along. They are there right now. And they will be there long after we are gone, still waiting, still watching, still wearing the costumes that evolution has tailored over eons. The wild does not shout. It whispers. And the most important things in the wild are the ones you almost see but then look away from, convinced that nothing is there. Something is always there. A stone that is a fish. A twig that is an insect. A shadow that is a snake. A silence that is a predator holding its breath. You have lived your entire life surrounded by this hidden world, and you have never truly seen it. But now you know it exists. And knowing is the first crack in the camouflage. Once you know to look, you see a little more each time. Not everything. Not even most things. But enough to realize that the world is far stranger, far more beautiful, and far more alert than you ever imagined. Subscribe to Echoes of the Wild, and turn on notifications so you never miss another journey into the hidden side of nature. Because next time, we will dive even deeper. We will explore the animals that do not just hide their bodies but hide their very existence, living in places where no one thought life could survive. We will meet the creatures that have turned transparency into a superpower, becoming as clear as glass to slip past enemies and prey alike. And we will ask the question that has haunted naturalists for centuries: if something is perfectly invisible, can we ever truly prove it exists? Until then, keep looking twice. Keep questioning the leaf, the stone, the shadow. And remember, in the wild, you are never truly alone. You are just not seeing clearly yet. The invisible world is waiting. Step softly. Look closer. And listen.